We've been inbound 4 or 5 times now. What about you guys for your first time? What was your thoughts when you walked into the event centre? What's your feelings about the whole trip to Boston?
It was madness.
Yeah.
It was like a party.
Yeah.
Everything's just like massive over there. It was like going to a huge concert, really, when we
Yeah.
first walked in
A
there.
festival or something.
Yeah.
Especially
the main room when you
Yeah.
walk in,
Oh
you see
my
all the
word,
seats
yeah.
and a huge screen at the front. You're like, geez, this is huge.
Yeah.
26,000 this year, so what's that, another 7,000 on top of last year?
I can't even remember where they're going, but
Yeah.
in the back of Darmesh's and Brian's talk this year, there was a good 1,000 people standing at the back.
It
It was
sold out,
absolutely
wasn't it?
packed out.
Everyone, welcome to Inbound After Hours. We've just got back from INBOUND19. 8 of us here. We're all absolutely knackered. Well, I am personally. How's everyone feeling?
Yeah.
You're all good? We've had a good time. It's been an eventful trip. We had a bit of a balls up at the airport. Someone booked the wrong name on a ticket and did book cases, but apart from that, it's been a really good trip.
£1,000 spent before we
So, who wants to start off with the key takeaways? Ricky, do you want to
Yeah.
talk about what you've learned during your trip?
Yeah, tons. I guess the one actionable one we can talk about today is around Facebook groups. So there's a couple of themes that flow through a few days around how organic visibility for Facebook's going off the cliff. I think Ryan Dice said over the last 5 years it's gone from like 26% visibility to 0.5%. And then the next day I was in a talk about how to use Facebook groups, so that was to combat not having visibility on pages. And they're reporting engagement on Facebook pages at like 40% at the moment. And over the last year, Facebook's made a load of changes to the algorithm to boost pages. And they've also made quite some good changes in the UX of the app itself to boost pages as well. So you'll notice if you load the app, the top corner now has actually got just an icon for groups. And their mission is to get 1 billion people using groups by the end of 2022. It's currently 400 million, so that's their agenda. So I guess for marketers, Facebook are taking groups seriously. That's where you're getting the visibility, so get on and in there.
Good.
And market, I guess the one I went to is how do you market your group, and some of it was pretty much like you'd market anything. Send it out to your email database, put on your email signatures, write blogs about it, do podcasts about it, whatever it is, just get it out there.
Do we have a group?
We do, Andrew, thanks for mentioning that. It's a very good segue there. Yeah, Inbound After Hours Facebook group, lively, 300-ish members. Get yourself on there.
It's a grave in there.
Yeah, it is. It's
Oh, thanks, Ricky. Just before we go around the room, we've been inbound 4 or 5 times now. What about you guys for your first time? What was your thoughts when you walked into the event centre? What's your feelings about the whole trip to Boston?
It was madness.
Yeah.
It was like a party.
Yeah.
Everything's just like massive over there. It was like going to a huge concert, really, when we
Yeah.
first walked in
A
there.
festival or something.
Yeah.
Especially the main room when you
Yeah.
walk in,
Oh
you see
my
all the
word,
seats
yeah.
and a huge screen at the front. You're like, geez, this is huge.
Yeah.
26,000 this year, so what's that, another 7,000 on top of last year?
I can't even remember where they're going, but
Yeah.
in the back of Darmesh's and Brian's talk this year, there was a good 1,000 people standing at the back.
It
It was
sold out,
absolutely
wasn't it?
packed out.
Yeah.
On that note, how good was Dartmouth? I thought that was
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
I think that's
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
favourite talks.
Really
It's
Yeah.
very personable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone can just relate to him.
He's just so cute.
I
And
know.
I just want to take him home with us.
I got so emotional when he swam, and I was like, oh my god, yes, he's doing it. I was like, oh. I don't know if I was just hungover though. I don't know.
One of those two.
Yeah.
So did you do any drinking then during the trip? Is that
Oh
what you said?
Jesus,
Oh,
too
no.
much.
Kept it cash.
Not much.
Oh
We
god.
paced ourselves.
No.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
fast
wait,
pace.
Yeah.
We went slow until Thursday and then
And it went a bit wild.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Pick on someone. Let's pick on Amy then.
Oh, gosh.
What have you learned during your trip to
Oh my
Inbound?
gosh, I learnt far too much, my little brain to handle. But I think the main thing that I learnt was all about emails, because I write them like every single day. And I've sort of struggled with them recently, like trying to like write for the clients, but I'm writing for the client and not the client's customers, which is where we've been going wrong. And we're sort of writing for them to like sign it off, but obviously when they get a low open rate and low click-through rates, because we're writing for the client and not for them. So I really learnt like how to try and like introduce humour so that the customers get it, sort of like an inside joke, which I've actually used like since we've come back and it's been signed off straight away. So I'm hoping that when we send that out, it will do really well, because it's sort of trying to get on their level. Because even though the client knows their business so well, the customer might not, and that's what they're not getting. Like, they're not understanding that we're writing for that customer, and they might not know as much. And so we're just trying to get on their level, which is probably the best thing I've learned so far, really.
How good's that? Thank you, Amy. Really good, yeah. Anyone else? Amazing. You got anything for us?
Yeah, I've got. I learnt a lot of things, but one main thing was that they said that the buyer's journey isn't linear anymore. But it's not looped either. They said that it's more like a playground, so people, like children, can enter and exit as they please. They can go on any of the seesaw, the swing, and then back to the seesaw slide. Like, can go anywhere. Yeah. They said that they can go backwards, forwards, sideways, wherever. So we need to start reflecting that in our content. We can't assume that just because someone goes into awareness, it'll be considered decision delight. It can be, they can jump, they can go backwards. So our content our internal links should cater to all of the buyer's journey stages, and then we should have like notes, like references to the fact that, oh, you might have decided that you don't want to do this anymore, so try checking out this link. Or if you have decided, check out this link, so then everyone is covered. So they're not just going to leave your blog and be like, I want to go elsewhere.
I hear that right, so the funnel's dead.
Yeah.
The flywheel's dead, and it's now the playground. Good to know.
I like it. Kaz, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I mean, second year, I absolutely loved it. I think one of the best talks I went to, I mean, there was so much, but one of the best ones was with George Thomas, just on video. We all know how massive video is, especially where it's come in the last year, using HubSpot and Vidyard. And I think it's just about how you can personalise video within the sales process a bit more, and it's something I know I need to do a lot more than what we currently do. And it's just to tell the story, be yourself, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it just shows you're human, really.
A lot on storytelling this year, did you notice?
Yeah.
Everyone, we're on about this at lunchtime today, everyone's telling stories, a lot of talk.
Yeah, very much,
I think 3 of my talks was all about that. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Sammy?
Yeah, leading into that, that was a recurring theme that I kind of noticed from moving from Dharmesh. One of the ladies that I went to watch, Gabriella Tiara, she was talking about unleashing your brand's storytelling power. A lot of the times, like with the content, you kind of think you're posting stuff to post stuff, but since I've kind of been to these talks, I've really come back and started to look at who it is that we're trying to reach, and be authentic and personalise the content to your audience, because that, as a brand, is your superpower, which I found was really useful. So looking at analytics, kind of demographics, geolocations, all of the things that you kind of miss on the day-to-day, just kind of start clean slate and then really look into the nitty-gritty and start to connect and look at where your audiences are, really.
Cool.
So I thought that was a really good
I like that.
storytelling.
Yeah, I think we're planning to put a slide deck together on all our learnings and present it to the full company, so that's on the agenda. Tom?
Did you get the point that all the speakers were introverts as well? I think every speaker made the point of trying to say
it's a good opening line, that, isn't it?
500 people. Big time.
Why is that? Everyone I went to see is open by I'm an introvert.
I think it's a safe thing to say, like, I'm introverted, so if I'm rubbish, leave me alone.
I
think it is that.
You're like, oh, we expected it.
That's a nice place to start that.
Yeah, you kind of didn't believe him though,
I
did you?
believe none of them.
No.
I believe Dharmesh because you can see.
Coming out of it
I
though,
love
isn't
the
it?
not making eye contact with anyone, just looking at
I
your
know.
forehead.
I mean, we went to a talk and he started singing The Greatest Showman.
Oh my
and I was
God.
like, both me and Maisie were just sat there and he just burst. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here?
I was definitely awake
I'm
then.
an
I was like,
introvert, but hold on.
Yeah.
There were a lot more audience participation as well. At one stage, they had us all dancing, and he wouldn't let us. He wouldn't let anyone stop there in the room with dancing. It was not for like 10 minutes.
It'd have been there a while with me.
You would hate it. Ricky would hate
It mixed the
it.
stages up as well. Did anyone go to a room that was weird, like with
Like a
catwalk?
catwalk, yeah.
I went to one that had 3 stages in.
Yeah, that was in
and
the
person
hotel,
was
wasn't
walking
it?
back between
Yeah.
them. There's loads of weird stages this year.
I struggle with that one because you like to see him talking as well,
Yeah.
and they kept facing the other audience.
Yeah, it was a bit odd, wasn't it? So I think if you got the presence, you can pull it off, but some of them didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, what have you got for us?
So if you're a data guy like me, I like to look into like HubSpot Analytics, Google Analytics, and I went to a really good talk about how you can actually use HubSpot Analytics in each section of the flywheel. So in the attract stage, you look at like traffic analysis and look how they've come to your website and why they've come there, and then you can look into the engage stage where they're actually bringing out a new kind of analytics, which is attribution, which you can look at like where they've converted and where they've come from. But you can also like go into different parts of attribution analysis and look at what steps they've gone in to become a client or convert. So then you can divide that up into like how different parts like social media, how your blogs have like actually helped them convert, and you can see where you can focus on and where like it's actually doing really well. And then obviously when you go on to the delight stage, you can look at the different kinds of feedback you get from the clients. So you can use that, then tick it in that you can put in HubSpot to be able to like get back in touch with them or improve like any event or anything or processes that you've got. So like just being able to visualise the flywheel, not having it there, but be able to put some data behind it and be able to show the client, I think that'll be really good to see. Definitely.
I like that. It's a good way to lay out your reports, just into the 3 sections, quite concise. Reports can get a bit meaty, can't they, and long, so yeah, be quite a nice way to do it.
What did you guys think? What was your favourite? Was it the small group sessions or the large keynotes?
I like the keynotes this year. I thought Alexis was really good.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and I thought they were really good this year.
I think all the speaking quality, so been going 5 years now, it's probably the best year for like quality. I found you always have 1 or 2 random rubbish ones basically, and I didn't have any really.
No.
They were all really good.
Yeah.
I didn't pick them any differently. I sort of just picked really what I wanted to go to, but everybody has obviously spoken many times. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They were all really engaging. The decks were good and they were like interesting. So
I think it was a couple of years ago. We probably were hitting about 50%, weren't we? Of like
there's a
just
couple of years where
starts.
like it's a mixed like lucky dip sort of thing.
Yeah,
but
but I agree this year that doesn't
Last
think
week you
bad I
couldn't
went
get in.
to.
Remember when you couldn't get in?
Oh yeah, with the queues and stuff. But yeah, I agree with that. The quality was much better. I'm not a spotlight keynote person. Wasn't many of them I enjoyed, but I like the little rooms.
I had about 2 or 3 chats with the actual HubSpot guys as well. I had a podcast one as well as the like analytics one, and they were really really good. Like the people you wouldn't expect to be up there talking all the time. Actually, really, you learned quite a bit from them and got more involved with them.
You've normally took that tactic of going to the HubSpot ones because they are normally quite
I found that they're
tactical,
normally,
aren't they?
well, they're going to be relevant, but I think they attract a lot of good marketers, obviously, but they're usually pretty on it, which I've always found. It's a good tactic, yeah.
The guy Kevin Dunn from HubSpot, he does all like the company culture and things, and his talk was really good on Partner Day. I think I went with you, didn't I? Amazing. And I was like firing off loads of ideas on like what he was suggesting that we could do as like a business, like for the culture, and yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed his speech.
It's grown in scope again, picking up on that. Like 5 years ago, it was a marketing conference, and then it's a marketing and sales conference. Now it's quite a business conference, isn't it? So there's tons on leadership, like you say, tons on culture. And I went to someone like HR and also mentoring programs. It's actually quite a wide scope event now, whereas marketing's probably 60-70% of it, which is quite an interesting change. Does make it a bit more enjoyable. It's not 40 talks about workflows. It does mix it up a little bit.
Sorry. Sorry, you went to.
Have you got any takeaways, Andrew?
Yeah, I think similar to what Ricky was just saying, I actually, as I've sort of been with Digital 22, I started off going to very tactical talks, and over the years I've moved, obviously as my job's changed, moved into going to more leadership based talks and things, so I had a lot of those, which were great for me. And the best sort of hands-on actionable thing I went to was, I can't remember the guy's name unfortunately, but he's a product manager at HubSpot, and he was responsible for some of the bigger updates, but he's he manages one of the many product teams at HubSpot, but he used to be a marketer, so what he was talking to us about was the framework that the product teams use to make decisions for what they develop next, and is it a good idea or not, and trying to transpose that onto like marketing campaign ideas and how to work through. It's like this 5 C's framework, really in depth and really relevant to make like really good like decisions. So treating your campaign like a product really, and it just I just loved it, like a new angle. We obviously go through a lot of campaigns and I QC a lot, and managing a team of strategists that do that every day, it was really valuable to me to think I can bring something back that they could actually give it a go and see that this is how HubSpot do it for their actual own products, and maybe we can learn a bit more on that side. So I really enjoyed that, because it's always nice to be able to bring something back. The leadership ones are like a bit selfish for me, and I enjoyed them, but got tons of notes on that one, so yeah, looking forward to that.
I don't know if you guys agree, but it's always the unexpected talks what are usually the best ones.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
We went to see a guy called Michael Litt, he's the CEO of Vidyard, that one of my favourite talks, all the mistakes he'd made as a business leader. He was kind of where we are now 3 years ago, so we got loads of great tips from him, which we'll be implementing. Public speaking as well, something I want to get better at. We're speaking in Sheffield tomorrow, so I'm going to try a couple of these tactics. Hopefully it'll work. Interesting as well that the two most feared things for human beings is the fear of death and fear of public speaking, which I found fascinating as well. So.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, probably true. So but all round great trip. Any other highlights?
What non-talk?
Off the record highlights. No,
I've only got one.
Food,
Oh gosh, yeah.
Food
Food was
great.
amazing.
Shout out
Sweet
for
cheeks.
Sweet
were
cheeks,
amazing.
yeah.
Sweet cheeks, Boston.
The breakfast was good.
Yeah, the breakfast was
Pancakes.
good.
Of
Yeah.
mules.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Diner.
Massive,
That was
massive
good.
pancakes. So,
I don't think any of us finished that breakfast, did we?
No.
Didn't get close to it.
Yeah. You were in a bad place.
That's not the best place.
We'd finished eating a 18-inch pizza about 3 hours
Yeah,
before.
we
Yeah,
that.
we did.
So-
Yeah.
Two of them.
Yeah,
Two of them,
yeah.
And there was a side salad too, but that
I
ended
don't
up
know
in
why that
hospital.
ended up somewhere mysterious.